Join Douglas MacMillan every Sunday afternoon at 2 for an hour of music and song from the Celtic nations and beyond. In traditional and modern styles and in languages both native and adopted, hear the Celtic World brought right to your home through the magic of radio. That's Celtic World, Sundays at 2 on Otago Access Radio, 105.4 FM and 1575 AM, and online at www.oar.org.nz.
Hello and welcome to Celtic World. I'm your host Douglas MacMillan. Canadian group Into the Haggis there with Lancaster Gate. a good illustration of really how suited, of all acoustic instruments, the Great Highland Bagpipe is. It really does not need amplification, when it's part of a amplified rock group. Anyway, let's move on to another track. And here's one by Australian singer-songwriter Janette Geri, who throughout her career, and she has produced quite a number of albums to date, she does compose and perform Celtic-inspired music. And here from her 96 album is a tune she composed, Olliebod's Jig. Time now for some Gráda from Ireland with River.
Bathe me in the water of the Llyn, of the Boyne, of the Liffey, of the Slaney, of the Barrow, Northern Shore, of the Blackwater, the Ban, the Lee, the Shannon, Foyle and Down. Bathe me in the water. Oh, bless the water that flows from the fields into the sea that surrounds our little island of green. Oh, bless the water that flows from these stone walls into an ocean we have never seen. Bathe me in the water of the Llyn, of the Boyne, of the Liffey, of the Slaney, of the Barrow, Northern Shore, of the Blackwater, the Ban, the Lee, the Shannon, Foyle and Down. Bathe me in the water. Hope is a dress that my mother once wore, a fiddle tune I heard that has no words. Hope is the one thing we have never lost, though we are tired from the old world. Bathe me in the water of the Llyn, of the Boyne, of the Liffey, of the Slaney, of the Barrow, Northern Shore, of the Blackwater, the Ban, the Lee, the Shannon, Foyle and Down. Bathe me in the water. Of the Llyn, of the Boyne, of the Liffey, of the Slaney, of the Barrow, Northern Shore, of the Blackwater, the Ban, the Lee, the Shannon, Foyle and Down. Bathe me in the water. Bathe me in the water of the Llyn, of the Boyne, of the Liffey, of the Slaney, of the Barrow, Northern Shore, of the Blackwater, the Ban, the Lee, the Shannon, Foyle and Down. Bathe me in the water.
Next up is French group Imosima, led by diatonic accordion maîtresse Audrey Le Jossac. A Being French and Breton influence, they certainly have a Breton style, but here's their take on a traditional Gaelic jig form with Jigs to the Messenger. Off to Cornwall we go now with The Changing Room and a Cornish version of their song Names on a Wall, sung by founding member Sam Kelly, who, along with The Changing Room and as a solo artist, has really brought to the forefront Cornish folk music. So here they go.
Feathers, harkins go the bewakens, I renzi dever tramo a peldre. Llyn a cyfennin trw, cyn dreifyw yw ddens yn rhyw. I ffwn sgelys bywion yn leid y le. I sgriffen neddau bwbdydd, lys drani gaws yn beid. Mes I bys yn ni beth saw beth gref saban. I arredia sgript o'r sans, gyns a ifan mos walnans. Ga henwyn I arred o'r ffos y fan. Ag yn gwerthen sag yn breda, ag yn taso mebion gyf. Iddyn sgrefn breis a lim rhaid y fos. Mes yn cors y jetys ancol, hag yn col o'n sgwerd y sens. Iddyn zedor fel melys war yn ros. I sgrefan edda I bwbdydd, lys drani gaws yn beth. Bys ni beth saw beth gref saban. I arredia sgript o sans, gyns a ifan mos walnans. Ga hyn mynd I arred o'r ffos y fan. Saw beth gref saban. I arredia sgript o'r sans, gyns a ifan mos warnans. Ga hen mynd I arred o'r ffos y fan. Ga hen I arred o'r ffos y fan.
Really nice song, and good to hear the Cornish language being utilised. Now it's time for American band Colcannon with The Rainmaker.
You're listening to Celtic World on Otago Access Radio, 105.4 FM. Real people, real radio.
Well, that's about it for another show. Don't panic if you think it's this particular episode is egregiously foreshortened. I have a little treat in store for you. Seeing as how it's such a miserable midwinter period here in Dunedin, I thought we could do with a little treat. And here with a story for us, a legend in fact from Wales, is Claire Hamilton, with the Lady of Llyn van Fach. But before we hear from her, I'll have to say that you've been listening to Celtic World on Otago Access Radio, 105.4 FM, 1575 AM. This and all shows are streamed live, are available for download as podcast by visiting the website at www.oar.org.nz. If you wish to subscribe to any podcast, you can do so via iTunes. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I thank you for listening. And let's now hear the Lady of Llyn van Fach from Claire Hamilton.
High heat of the day, when the sun beat down from the blue of the sky, a widow's son made his way to the answering blue of a lake. Llyn van Fach, a slice of bright water, held in the fist of the great black mountain itself. Now the young man Gwyn was weary with the heat of the day and with watching the sheep he minded for his mother. So he looked about him at the margins of the lake for a place to rest. Soon he spied a large boulder close by the waterside. He made his way to it and put down his bundle. Then with his 2 hands he felt the smooth flat of the stone, and it was warm and pleasurable to the touch. So, with a sigh of contentment, he sat himself down upon it and reached for his bundle. Then he took out the lunch his mother had baked for him, 2 crusty loaves and a piece of goat's cheese, and began to eat. Now, if you have any bardic knowledge in you, you will know that the place where Gwyn was sitting was a very dangerous place. For, as the bards of old will tell you, the place where land and water meet is the place between 2 worlds. And the place between 2 worlds is the place of poetic inspiration. And the place of poetic inspiration is the place where true magic comes to pass. So you can see that as Gwyn was sitting right in the crack between the worlds, before very long something out of the ordinary was bound to happen to him. Now you or I would know this, but Gwyn himself was ignorant of bardic lore. And so, when he looked at the flick of the water by his feet, and saw how it would lick and lick at the shards of pink flint that fringed the lake, he thought nothing of it. And when his eye travelled over the wafting weed of the shallows, where the bubbles and the little fish and the secrets of the lake began, he still thought nothing of it. And even when he took his eye to the emerald heart of the lake itself, covered as it was with a cloak of wrinkled silk, studded with 1,000 pieces of mirror that winked and twinkled in the noonday sun, he still thought of nothing but the food in his mouth and the sheep he was minding for his mother. But while he sat there, The heat of the sun pressed so upon his shoulders, and the play of the waters danced so upon the pupils of his eyes, that before he was halfway through his meal, he fell into a drowse. When he woke up, what should he see? A young maid was rising from the middle of the lake, pulling the sequined cloak around her slender body. And wasn't there a gold light running round her head and across her shoulders, so that her hair mingled with the sun's rays, and neither could be told from the other? And wasn't that her sandalled foot, so strangely tied, gliding upon the waters as she came towards Gwyn? As she came near, Gwyn could see that her skin was soft and white as cloud, but close as she was, he dared not touch her. She looked at him with her sea-green eyes, and on an impulse he reached for the uneaten loaf of bread that lay beside him and held it out to her. But when she saw the crust upon it, she turned her head away and chanted, Cras Daivara, Need Houth Vernala. Then, like a bright vision, she faded into the lake, leaving her cloak wrinkling and winking upon the surface of the water as before. Well, Gwyn went home in a state of dream. He sat silent all through supper, until at last his mother said, What is it with you, Gwyn? Your two eyes are as round and shiny as the bottom of two cooking pots. And she glanced with pride at a line of gleaming copper pans hanging above the kitchen range. Then Gwyn told her of his vision, and how the maid had rejected his bread, saying it was too crusty and she could not eat it. And because his mother was wise as well as house-proud, she said, Ah, the woman must be of the fairy people. But if you want to catch her, have a care. It may be that the bread is too hard for her delicate mouth. I'll tell you what. Tomorrow, offer her the toast of the bread, the soft dough, and see if that suits her better. So, next day, come noon, there was Gwyn back on his boulder by the lakeside, waiting in the heat of the sun. He waited and waited until he became quite mesmerized with the silver points upon the water. Then at last he closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was the maid again, smiling over him. In a fluster, he bent down for the soft loaf and held it out to her. But she took one look at it and again turned her head away and chanted, Llaeth Davara Ti Navena. Then she faded back into the lake, leaving her cloak upon the water as before. That evening, when Gwyn returned to his mother, she could see that nothing had changed. He told her that the lady had come to him again, but again had disdained the bread, saying it was too soft for her, and she could not eat it. Aye, she's a fussy one, said his mother. Then she baked a third loaf, which was neither crusty nor soft, and next day she gave it to her son together with the goat's cheese. As noon drew near, he found his stone and sat upon it and set himself to wait. But this time he let himself be beguiled by the lights on the water until his eyes grew heavy. Then he closed them. When he opened them again, there was the maiden looking down on him with her sea-green eyes. He offered her the bread, and this time she took it. And now the young man drew the maiden to the magical edges of the lake and begged her to stay with him, to leave her watery home beneath the lake and marry him. At first, the lady was reluctant, but so passionate and ardent was he in his pleading that at last she said, "Very well, I will wed you, but on one condition. If you should ever give me 3 ergid diakos, 3 causeless blows, I shall return to my father's house and my home beneath the lake." "Why, that is easily promised," said Gwyn, who could not imagine striking her at all, let alone without cause. Then the maiden disappeared, leaving the young man in such a state of shock and joy and bewilderment as he had never felt in his life before. But he was not long standing there, when there was a parting of the water, and up came a hoary-headed man, dressed as a very king, with a jewelled clasp to his cloak and a 5-pointed crown upon his head. "So," thundered the regal old man, "you desire to wed my daughter? Very well, then, you shall have her, but only if you can choose her truly." As he spoke, up came the maiden from the lake, and at her side came her sister, and the 2 of them were as mirror images one of the other, so that the young man was hard put to tell which of them it was had taken the bread from him. While he stood hesitating, one of the maidens gently pushed her sandal foot out from her long skirt, and something about the strange tying of it stirred the memory of the young man to the time when he had first seen her gliding across the water towards him. "That is the one," he said. "You have answered well, and you shall have her," said the king. "Furthermore, as dowry, I will grant her sheep and cattle, goats and horses, as many of each as she can count in one breath." Then the maiden, who had wit as well as beauty, drew in a long breath and began counting like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And even though she counted in Welsh, "Un, dau, tri, pedwar, pump, un, dau, tri, pedwar, pump." If you would like to try it for yourselves, you will soon understand why, after 4 such breaths, the couple became possessed of such a wealth of sheep and cattle, goats and horses as has never been seen before or since. But as for the girl's father, he sank beneath the lake with a pale face, while the procession of animals emerged wet and dripping from the lake and slowly left his kingdom. And so the couple were wed and moved to a farm in Sgadan, 6 miles from the lake. They lived happily together for many years and raised 3 fine sons. But as the years passed, Gwyn began to forget that the woman he loved, who was as well behaved and dutiful as any wife should be, had ever come from the lake at all. Then, one summer's day, they were invited to the christening of a neighbour's child. As they were getting ready to go, the lady stepped out of the house, and suddenly a great weariness came upon her. Her limbs became so heavy that it was a great effort for her to move. "I'm too tired to walk," she said to her husband. "Very well," said he, "then fetch one of the horses and you can ride there." "I will," said she. "But while I do that, will you fetch my gloves for me? I have left them on the kitchen table." So Gwyn went and fetched her gloves. But when he came out again, there she was, still as stone upon the spot, as though a spell were on her. "Dos, dos! Hurry up," he said, and he struck her on the shoulder with the gloves. The lady drew herself up. "That is the first causeless blow," she said. "Take care you never strike me so again." Gwyn was taken aback to learn that such a light tap was one of the 3 dreaded blows. But after that he was very careful in his behaviour towards her. and the years went by as before. Then a day came when they were invited to attend a neighbour's wedding. After the ceremony, the guests were celebrating with great mirth and laughter, when suddenly a terrible sadness stole over the lady, and she began to weep. Tears were running down her face, and soon she was sobbing uncontrollably. Gwyn took hold of her shoulder and shook her. "What is the matter with you?" he said. "Why are you crying when everyone else is celebrating?" Between her sobs, his wife replied, "I weep because I see that this day is the beginning of sorrow for this couple, for they are embarking on a life of woe together. Why should I not weep when I can see such things?" "And," she said, looking up at him through her tears, "that is the second causeless blow. Ah, take care you never strike me so again." After that, Gwyn took even greater care not to hurt his wife, for his love for her was very strong. A few more years passed, and then they were invited to the funeral of a neighbour's husband. When the ceremony was at its height and the mourners were weeping with grief, suddenly a great merriment stole over Gwyn's wife. She threw back her head and let out peal upon peal of laughter, while those around her stared open-mouthed in shock and horror. "How dare you!" cried Gwyn, and he shook her by both shoulders. "How dare you laugh when all around you are mourning their dead?" "I laugh," said his wife, "because I see that the man here who has died has escaped his woes and is already tasting the joys of the other world. Why should I not laugh when I can see such things?" "But now," she said, and her tears of laughter turned to tears of sadness, "that was the third causeless blow, and you know that I must leave you." She kissed him tenderly, and she kissed her 3 sons. Then she set her face towards their farm, and as she went, she began calling to her cattle. "Mi ulvrech, moilvrech, mi olvrech, gwynvrech, peder, Caitonvrech, un hen, wynab wen, ar las gaigan, gyda tarw gwyn, o lys a brennan." And the cattle obeyed the summons of the Lady of the Lake, even down to the little black calf that had been killed and was set upon the hook. For it climbed down from the hook and came to her with the rest of the animals. Then she set her face towards the lake, and as she went, she saw 4 oxen ploughing in the field. She called out, "I pedwar idion glas, sydd I math, diochwydda iniach adre." And the oxen turned and came after her, pulling the plough behind them, and leaving a furrow on the land as they went. And as she kept calling, one by one, the animals came to their lady and followed her down into the lake, where they sank beneath the dark waters and were seen again no more. And afterwards Gwyn would often sit by the lake, waiting for his lady to appear. but she never did. Only, it is said, she would sometimes appear to her 3 sons. And she taught them the secret properties of herbs for the healing of mankind. And her sons grew up to become the 3 famous physicians of Myddfai, whose herbal remedies were handed down the generations and are known even to this day.